Hey everybody, Dave Gristello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow, and this is a really special episode. It's one of the most controversial episodes we've ever done. For people that were watching very, very closely, you could actually see us publish the episode, and then we immediately took it down because we thought the information was too controversial, that we needed to keep things confidential. So we have a new episode airing, and this is one of the most unique episodes we had ever done. So let me outline kind of how this episode came together. We know somebody in our community that went and worked at one of the big box tax locations. They've done so for the last 2 years, and we have been talking with them off and on for the past couple years about what their experience was like. And what we did is we documented what they learned working at the big box retail locations, okay? And we put it in the article today, so there's a full write-up at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. But in today's podcast, instead of interviewing somebody, because we have to keep their information confidential, I'm going to walk you through, four of the big bullet points we talk about in the interview. So the first thing that really surfaced for us as we were going through this interview is that every interaction is scripted with their clients, and they actually, most of these locations call them customers, right? So everything's scripted. What does that mean? That means when somebody walks into the office, there is a typical way to greet them. When somebody calls up the office, there's a specific way to answer the phone. There's a specific way to represent the culture and the service that is going on in that retail tax location. This individual, when they initially applied and got the job for a customer service representative, got a specific script. This is how you answer the phone. This is how you treat customers. This is how you greet customers. This is how you call them up to request more information. So they were very adamant. They're very disciplined about how they treated each one of their customers that came in. And to me, this is something we've harped on a lot in all the interviews that we've done on the Growing Your Firm podcast. This is obviously something that Jetpack Workflow we really try to instill inside of the product, is that if you do it more than once, you should have it documented, and you should train people around that documentation. And look, everybody that works at your firm is in the customer service industry. Everybody at your firm is probably picking up the phone or talking with clients or interacting with new prospects in some kind of way. And if you don't have a lightweight script that you can help educate and train your team on, then everybody's representing your brand a different way. So that to me was a really big bullet point about their time there. The other thing that really came up during the interview was that everybody was part of what we call the customer chase. So there's always information missing. There's always information missing inside of your firm. And you have to track down your clients. You have to text them. You have to call them. You have to email them. Maybe you write them a letter. And what was instilled in many of these big box retail locations was if you have time on your hands to do something, open up the database, open up the workflow tool, the CRM, see we're still waiting on to get client information, and contact them. Now, look, it's obviously contingent on you having a database where you can quickly pull up who you're waiting on information for. But if you're using Jetpack Workflow, something as simple as labels can accomplish this. If you're using a spreadsheet or something else, please tag them as waiting on the client. And what the expectation was at the firm was if you have time on your hands, so maybe you don't have a lot of customers or clients coming in, open up the database and start tracking down missing information that we're waiting on from our clients. Now, this is really great. It reminds me of actually a phrase that we've heard many, many times, which is if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. And what that means is if you're bored, if you have downtime, you have nothing to do, get to cleaning. And this is, obviously came up, pick up the mop and start cleaning the floor, whatever it may be. In this case, it's like, let's clean up the database. Let's clean up the client chase. So I thought that was a really great point where everybody could jump in and help solve one of the big problems that was going on in the firm. And it's not just Big Box that has this problem. We see this problem each and every firm we essentially work with, and empowering their staff to take that on. So I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was great. And I thought having everybody be a part of that was really, really amazing. When we started getting into tax prep, some of the things that really surfaced was to the amount of time that went into training the tax preparer. So, when this individual was a customer service rep, it was a 4-hour training for them to be able to represent the brand. Now, when they became a tax preparer, it's a multi-day course, understanding all the different tax implications, understanding how tax workflows worked at that specific firm, and they take training very, very, very seriously. And I think if you want to have a firm that can scale, and scale meaning you add more clients, it doesn't always have to be a headcount thing. You need to invest in training. You need to make sure you have the right process for how you train and update and upgrade your team. And it was clear when this individual went through the office and the training there, they really took it seriously. If you're hiring, 1, 2, 200, 2,000, 20,000 people, you need to have a really strong training program. And look, the last thing I'll say, and this is the big bomb that this individual dropped on the interview, is we were talking about, how you can adapt in this new environment and the impact COVID-19 has had on the market. So many people are quarantined, so many people are working from home. And what this individual told me shocked me. The video wasn't on at that point, but my jaw dropped when I heard it. And it was that the big box tax industry was not set up from an infrastructure standpoint to go remote. It wasn't something they were anticipating, to have a pandemic and to be quarantined and to be out of the office. And, from this individual's perspective, and again, this is just their perspective, this is not, investment advice, this is not forward-facing advice or anything like that. But from the tooling and infrastructure this individual saw, he felt like they were not set up to make the transition happen. And to me, this is perhaps one of the greatest opportunities I've seen for a lot of the smaller to mid-sized firms that had spent decades competing against big box tax and big box retail tax, which is, for decades have been competing on price, even convenience to a large extent, but all of a sudden it's now about how adaptable are you to working in a remote environment and a remote infrastructure. And when he told me that, having the big box firm try to shift from having so many retail locations to then working completely in the cloud or being completely remote, I mean, it's hard enough when it's just 5 people. I mean, imagine if it's 500 or 5,000 or 50,000 and you have to shift that giant ship the whole way over and get everybody for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Maybe it's the new way that everybody expects it to be virtual now. Well, once the smoke clears and the economy recovers and we find the appropriate health treatments for COVID-19, and they're trying to move such a big boulder so quickly to get set up that I can't help but think, if you're a small firm, medium-sized firm, and you've been thinking this way, you've been forward-facing and forward-thinking, and you always think about how can we improve and how can we become adaptable and how can we adopt new technology to make us more competitive, you can do that significantly faster than the competitors that you were probably facing over the past couple years, past couple decades. So if that's you and you're listening to this, just be aware that there is an entire industry, there's an entire part of the economy, individuals, even business clients. Sometimes we think about big box tax and we say, yeah, that's just for individuals. Well, I can tell you in the last 5, 6, 7 years, a lot of these big box retailers have been pushing into B2B. They've been pushing into business owners. But if they don't have the infrastructure to serve them in a remote environment, to me, that's an outstanding opportunity to figure out how you can finally have the advantage in this relationship, how you can finally have the advantage in the marketplace, because you are fast, you are nimble, you can adopt things quickly, you can create new processes, you can adopt cloud tools, and really use them to serve the entire economy in the way that it needs to be served, which is remote work from home environment. And this is not going to go away tomorrow. It's not going to go away next week, I think. And again, it's going to recalibrate the expectations for such a large part of the market that they expect an online experience now, that your team expects an online experience, that if you must be able to manage your team in a cloud environment. And again, the big box retailers, the big box tax firms are going to have a really hard time moving everybody into that environment. So, look, I know this is a different type of interview. This is just me kind of riffing on what we've learned through this experience. You can see the full write-up of the interview at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. Again, the full write-up there is jetpackworkflow.com/blog. And again, there's a lot of takeaways that we learned going through this project, but the big one is, and we couldn't have foreseen it when we took on this project 2 years ago to really understand it, and that's just a lot of these players are not set up to be in the remote environment. And so if you are, and that's you, go all in on that. Make sure you're using cloud tech to manage your team, work with your clients. It's a huge advantage, and please keep going all in and serving your clients. I've told this to many, many accountants that there's now so much uncertainty going on about all these different financing options, all these different loan options. If you are not reaching out to your clients on a regular basis, giving them updates on what's going on in the stimulus package and all the various loan options, you're doing them a disservice. So please keep leaning in to serve your clients. Really hope you enjoyed this different type of interview. Again, I wish I could publish the interview as is, but for confidentiality reasons, we couldn't. So if you want to see the full write-up, jetpackworkflow.com/blog. And thank you so much for listening or watching.